started, I just want to let you know that the stuff I teach really works, because I've been energetically pulling everyone in so that I have a full house in my talk. And look around, it's full. It works. It's really good when you discover that what you're teaching really does work. Sorry. So thank you for coming along to my talk, From Survival to Thrivival. So how are you all enjoying the Expo so far? Anyone getting a bit tired of putting their hands up? So hands up, who's getting tired of putting your hand up? Do you know what? I'm not going to do that. I might be breaking all the how to engage your audience rules, but fuck it, this is my workshop, this is my talk, my rules. So, what is survival and what does it mean to survive? So, as human beings, we all have the basic survival function that we are hardwired to respond to danger with our fight, flight, and freeze response. And it goes back to our prehistoric roots. So before man had actually learnt how to talk, there was an automatic response in our brain to alert us to danger, so we could fight, we could run away, or we could freeze and play dead. So what does it actually mean? So this is, so what does it actually mean to survive in this day and age? Because there aren't that many saber-toothed tigers in our modern day society, and yet we've still got this basic function. So how is it showing up in our lives? One of the ways in which it might be showing up is that you're finding that life is just such a hustle, that it's a struggle, that you are having to fight your way to success. That's not how success should be, is it? It should be easy. And yet you're having to fight and struggle, and everything gets a little bit exhausting and draining. Why is it we're stuck in survival mode? Now, our brains that respond to stress, the fight, flight, or freeze response, the part of the brain that's responsible for that is called the amygdala. And like I said, it was that part of the brain that was developed before we learned how to talk. So why we're stuck in survival mode now is because we are viewing things in our lives from the perspective of all of the experiences that happened to us in our childhood. Those are the things that laid down our fear responses, and we are just constantly playing this automatic program, and so we're just stuck, constantly surviving because we're being triggered by stuff that we're unaware of, and it gets confusing. So before I go any further, I just wanted to talk a little bit about me. So I am Jane Jackson. I'm a soul coach and an energy practitioner, but I know that actually doesn't say anything about who I am as a person. So this was me as a child. This is the body that I chose to be born into, and I am that old that all my baby photos are black and white. Now, I know on a soul level that I chose to be born into this life. I chose to be born into abuse and trauma because I know that my journey was to overcome that abuse and trauma in order to be able to share with others my deep transformational journey, to help others find their own way to the truth of who they are. But I didn't know that at that age. When I was a child, life was very very confusing. I knew that there was something strange, something different about my family, but on the surface, everything looked normal. I had two parents. We had a lovely semi-detached 1960s house in the suburbs. We always had holidays. We always had clean clothes. We always had food. My parents were very, very well respected in the church community. It was a normal family. So why was I so confused? The messages that I used to receive from my father was, don't tell anybody about our special relationship because no one would understand. And especially don't tell your mother because she'll beat you. And we know that you don't like beating. So as a child, I had to keep these secrets in order to survive. And that became my roadmap, as it were, to life. But this is the adult that I became. This is who I am now. Someone who is absolutely, passionately, madly in love with her canal boat. I know it's a bit random, isn't it? I'm a crazy cat lady. Do you want to know what my dark secret is? So I love all things healthy. I start my day having this super, super healthy smoothie. I always think about, if anything physically goes wrong with me, I always think about how can I heal myself? But I love chocolate. I am sorry, I have this addiction to chocolate. And I am totally in love with my life. I love my life so much that it really, really annoys my husband because he says, it's all right for you. You're doing what you love. Some of us have to live in the real world. Some of us have to go out and work and earn a living. Well, you get to do what you love every day. That's not realistic. But the thing is, this is my real world because this is what I've created. So, back on planet Earth, and this is my corporate background, or how I came to where I was. So I started off life in banking and insurance. And then I went and worked in mental health for 15 years and set up some amazing projects. I guess my proudest achievement was setting up the UK's first ever service user-led run and managed crisis house. It was amazing. But I kept being made redundant 3 times in 5 years, and I thought, okay, universe, you're trying to tell me something. So I started to qualify as a personal performance and small business coach, and then I qualified as an emotional freedom technique practitioner. And since then, I've been on a journey to really understand myself and know what message it is that I need to be sharing with the world. So how did I go from this, it's a bit blurry, isn't it, but how did I go from this traumatized, lonely, shy child to the person I am today? Was it an easy journey? Was it a blessed journey? No, it was fucking hard. Because what happened when I transitioned from childhood into my teenage years was the memories of my childhood started to come in waves. And I wanted to squash them down. I didn't want to face up to the truth of what my childhood was. So I started drinking and I started taking drugs. And I would do whatever it took to squash those feelings and emotions down. And at some point, I think I managed quite well because I did end up getting married and having 2 really beautiful children. But the more I tried to pretend that everything was normal, the more these old emotions wanted to come out of the surface. And long story short, my drinking increased, my first marriage fell apart, and my life totally imploded to the point where I ended up in a psychiatric unit, given a label that was meant to exclude me, a label that was there for others to pigeonhole me into who I am. I always remember when the psychiatrist said, "I know what's wrong with you." He says, "This is your diagnosis. You have borderline personality disorder." And that's the good news, because the bad news is you will never recover from it. The best that you could ever hope for in your life is that you will manage to learn how to lurch from crisis to crisis. Well, I fucking wish he was here in the audience today, because I'm so proud that I have proved him wrong. So when let me go back a bit. So when I was in the psychiatric unit, and when I was given this label, this rage started to boil up inside of me. This rage that was, this is not who I am. And this rage was the rebirthing of my soul that wanted to speak out, my soul that wanted to heal. So I started on that quest to find my way to thriving in the world. So stop going from just surviving, going from crisis to crisis. So what is Thrivival? Well, I thought I'd made up the word, but apparently when I Googled it, someone else is using it as well. In a nutshell, it's the antithesis of survival. So it's the opposite of survival, which is all about struggle and doubt and, fighting for your life. Thrivival is all about creating that ease and flow and flourishing in your life. But why is it so difficult? Because we're still running the program of those childhood experiences. And why are we doing that? In a nutshell, it's the legacy of trauma. Now, I want to clarify what we mean by trauma here, because trauma is not always the obvious childhood abuse or the loss of a parent. When I talk about trauma, it's trauma through the eyes of your child self. So that time when you were made to stand up in front of the class and read out aloud, and you completely messed it up, and everyone started laughing at you. As your child self, that was incredibly humiliating and scary. And what happens is that creates an emotional disturbance in our energy system, as it were. And then other things happen to pile upon that belief that you've started to form that I'm not good enough. And let me think of a way. Right, here's a way to explain it. So, you know what it's like with a beaver, how he goes to build a dam? So a beaver starts with one twig, and gradually he brings more and more twigs to build this dam across a flowing stream or a flowing river, and gradually it interrupts the flow of the water until there's a complete blockage. Now, what happens with our energy system is that we experience something that's a traumatic event, and it causes a disruption in our energy system. And that's like, the first twig there in our stream of energy around our body. And then something else happens, and it adds to that, and something else happens and it adds to it, and before we know it, we've got this dam inside our energy system, and we're blocked, and it's not flowing, and it's showing up as physical health problems, or it's showing up as struggle or blocks in your business or money blocks. There's no end to the way in which it can disrupt our lives. When I came out of the psychiatric unit, although I was then engaged in a lot of talking therapies, and it looked like I was really getting my shit together, the blockages in my energy were starting to build up and build up and build up until I had chronic fatigue syndrome. And I had that for about 12 years. I came across emotional freedom technique, which is an energy psychology. And after 3 days of constant tapping, intensive tapping, I no longer had chronic fatigue. And that took me a long time to realize that, because for someone who had to spend, could never last more than 4 hours without needing to take a nap, I'm regularly up until 1 or 2 in the morning, still working and still got lots of energy flowing. This thing is freaking amazing. And I'm not just saying it because that's what I work with. I've just noticed in the people that I work with the incredible, amazing shifts that happen because you're talking about your issues as well as releasing the blocks at the same time. And I'm very aware that I'm running out of time. So how can you make that switch from survival to thrivival? And I guess the most important thing that I want you to take away from this talk is for you to know you are not your thoughts, and you are not your past experiences. What happens to you in life does not define the outcome of your life. It's how you respond to it. And you can absolutely change your life by mastering how you can change your thoughts and how you can change your responses and reactions to things. So 3 things you can start doing now for yourself. Journaling. I am such a huge fan of journaling. I was journaling last night exactly how this talk was going to be and how there was going to be every single chair filled, people standing at the back. Look around, that's exactly what I journaled. But one of the things that you can do is start having a conversation with your soul, with that inner part of you, because you know you have all the answers that you will ever need to know. You don't need to go to someone else to tell you how to live your life. You know how to do it, and you can connect with your inner being, with your soul, by having a conversation. Just write to them. Write to your soul what's going on in your head, and just wait for what comes back without judgment. Gratitude and affirmation. So you'll find that we've all put like an affirmation card on your chair. So if you want to know how to superpower your affirmations, come and see me afterwards. I'll show you some of the tapping points that you can use, because when you tap and you use positive affirmations, you're starting to create new neural pathways in your brain. And I've got about 30 seconds just to say, anyone who is interested in finding out how I can help them shift from survival to thrivival, I'm offering a free 30-minute call. Come and see me. I'm literally just out that table out the back there, and we can get a call booked up over the next few weeks. I don't do hard sell. I believe that if someone wants to work with me, they will let me know. So Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry that it's a bit rushed. I didn't realise I had so much to say. But I hope that you were able to gain some nuggets of insight. Thank you so much.